Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about Trump's indictments and the mistakes that he made that got him to the position that he got himself into. Right. So, the first thing we're going to address is what was the original plan, how things were expected to work out, and why they didn't work out the way they thought they were going to work out. So, um, originally, I believe the Democrats thought that they were going to be able to say, because they knew that there was a lot of dirt out there on Biden. They knew that he had most likely accepted lots of bribe money over the years. But they felt pretty confident that they could tell the Republicans, hey, you know, leave our man alone and we'll leave your man alone, right? Saying, hey, Trump, we think he's got stuff out there. We won't investigate Trump. We won't indict Trump if you leave our boy Biden alone, okay? And the Republicans were like, we don't care about Trump. He's not our man, okay? If you've got evidence on him, if you can get him indicted and convicted and get him out of our way, we'll be all that much happier, okay? Now, Republicans don't want to say this out loud since Trump is basically the leading Republican candidate right now. But that's what almost all of them are thinking internally, okay? So that's what I think the Democrats were kind of counting on. They were counting on being able to make this deal with Republicans where basically they would leave Trump alone if the Republicans would leave Biden and his family alone, okay? So that didn't happen. Democrats are like really threatened now. So they're going all out, and they keep, they're going really hard on Trump, and they're like saying, hey, stop this thing with investigating Biden because we're gonna keep going at it with Trump, and go ahead, we don't care. So as you can see, the Republicans are pushing really hard to try and get the Bidens investigated. FBI wants nothing to do with it, right? They are like, they absolutely refuse to look at all of the evidence that is presented. And the reason for that is because they're protecting their who they perceive to be their man. Okay, so the bureaucracies, right? So all the alphabet agencies plus the military, okay, they're a class onto themselves. Okay, they are the government class, the permanent government class. Okay, so to them, everybody else, the Republican politicians, Democrat politicians, those are all temporaries. Okay, the bureaucratic and military class, they see themselves as permanent, and they see themselves as just as using the politicians to basically, get themselves paid, right? Because that's how they get paid, right? Congress basically makes the budget, so they have no choice. They kind of have to work with Congress. They're probably thinking to themselves at some point in the future, hopefully they'll get rid of Congress and they won't have to deal with Congress, and then they can just, be the ruling class. But for now, the bureaucracy and the military, they have to deal with Congress because they need to get paid by them. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Let's talk about the mistakes that Trump made that got him into this position that he's in. The first mistake that he made is in trusting the bureaucracies. Okay, he believes he's a law and order guy. He's a military guy, right? So so he believes in these institutions. The mistake, he had this mindset that, hey, these institutions are good. Okay, there's basically just a few bad apples in there, but for the most part, most of the people inside the institution are good, and the ideals behind these institutions are good. And he got that completely wrong. Okay, the way these institutions are bad. Okay, they are there for one purpose at this point, and that is to basically serve themselves. Okay, they are there to serve the permanent government class, basically the permanent bureaucratic and military class. That's what they are there for. Okay, so he failed to understand this. He failed to understand that rather than it being a case of a few bad apples, it's kind of like the reverse. It's almost all bad apples with maybe just a few good ones in there. So he failed to understand that. Okay, he thought he was just going to make some changes at the top, and that was going to, fix everything. Okay, that's not the case. These institutions are corrupted all the way through. It's not even that they're corrupted in the sense that, I mean, at this point, they are there to serve themselves. So from their perspective, they're not corrupted. They're self-serving, right? So from their perspective, from the perspective of the institutions, they think everything's just fine. So Trump failed to understand this. He trusted the bureaucracies. First mistake. Okay. Second mistake, he failed to destroy the bureaucracies. Okay, he should have understood that these bureaucracies, again, this is all the alphabet agencies plus the military. He failed to understand that these are self-serving. They no longer serve the people, and he failed to take steps to destroy them. How can he possibly destroy them? He would have to basically change the leadership structure, starting from the top, but also internally, to put people in there who believe that these bureaucracies are now corrupt, and self-serving, and basically get the bureaucracies to fight themselves from within. Okay, because that's the only way that you can really destroy these bureaucracies at this point. You're never gonna get enough votes in Congress to defund them, or to basically completely eradicate them. So you're not going to be able to do it congressionally. The only way to do it is to get enough people in the bureaucracies that to get them to fight within themselves. Hopefully information will start leaking out. We'll start getting even more whistleblowers to start reporting on each other. If the people within the bureaucracies are afraid of other people seeing what they're doing and reporting them, perhaps they'll be a little bit more careful. So that's the only way you can destroy these bureaucracies at this point. You have to get them to destroy themselves from within. Okay, so Trump failed to do that. Okay, number 3. Okay, third mistake he made is he failed to declassify everything. Okay, and I mean everything, like from the ratification of the Constitution. Okay, now you'll hear these bureaucrats say, "Hey, you can't do that because you're putting at risk, people and assets and sources." To hell with that. Right? What you tell them is, "Hey, you got 1 week to get all your people out, right, to safety, right, wherever you think that is, and then everything gets declassified, everything." Okay. Trump failed to do that, and this specifically, if he had done this one thing, declassify everything, okay, at least the stuff that he took, right, he could have easily done that, but if he had declassified everything, they would not have anything to indict him with, because he had the legal authority to declassify everything as president. Okay, so number 4, okay. He failed to destroy the defense of the bureaucrats of sources and methods. Okay, so anytime you get the FBI or CIA or any one of these alphabet agencies in front of Congress, you ask them a question that they don't want to answer, they'll say that they're not authorized, they can't answer because they are protecting sources and methods. Okay, so that defense needs to be done away with. Okay. As president, he had the power to do that, okay, because he's in charge of the bureaucracies. Okay, so this defense that they have of protecting sources and methods needs to be destroyed. He could have done that as president. He failed to do that. Okay, and it's come back to bite him in the ass now. Okay, 5. Okay, he needs to have retired or resigned much of the old leadership in these bureaucracies, in particular the military, right? Because, I mean, you got this guy, General Milley, that's been there for how long? He was there for Trump, now there for Biden. I mean, it's pretty clear now that we can see he is definitely, I mean, in hindsight, right, with all the things that he's done for Biden, you can clearly see that he was not trying to help Trump or his agenda in any way. Okay, so he needs to have basically completely retired the entire leadership of the bureaucracies and the military, almost without prejudice, because you really don't know who's on your side and who's not. So you coming in, you have to kind of assume that everybody is against you, and just basically just clean slate, bring everybody in you, and even if they're working against your agenda, at that point they don't have enough power to be that effective. They don't have enough sources. They don't have enough people. So it kind of stands out a lot more. It's easier to identify. If you've got somebody that's been there for almost, for their whole life, right? They can operate a lot more smoothly. They can operate without being seen. They've got connections. They've got people in place that can cover up for them. If you get rid of everybody that's been there for a long time, you bring in all new people. They can't cover themselves up so easily. Okay, so that's mistake number 5 that Trump made. He failed to retire and resign the entire leadership of both the bureaucracies and the military. Okay, and you might say, hey, if you do that, especially in the military, you're weakening the military. So what? Okay, that's a very cheap price to pay for what's happening to us. Okay, if that's what it takes to reset things, so be it. Okay, number 6. Okay, there's another one. Trump failed to cut off the military industry. Okay, because the way it works in the military, right? The goal of everybody that's like a career person in the military, right, is to retire out and eventually go work for the military industry where the big money is. Okay, so they know this years in advance. They're basically trying to work out deals years of advance of their retirement, so that when they do retire, they got a nice, comfy, high-paying job waiting for them. The military industry, their goal is to obviously make wars so that they can make money, right? If things aren't being blown up around the world, the military industry is not making money. Okay, so of course they're in a position to, because you got this relationship that goes back and forth between the military industry and the military personnel, high-level personnel, and of course, when those people advise the politicians, they're going to advise them in such a way that's favorable to the military industry, so that, first of all, it's like personal, immediate job security, but it is also future job security as far as them working for the military industry. Okay, so these are 6 mistakes that Trump made. I'm hoping that he learns from these mistakes if he ever gets to be president again. It is highly likely that he's going to be the Republican nominee. Okay, and if that's going to be it, so be it. I mean, I suppose it's better to have him, all right, versus some rhino Republican that's just going to roll over. At least with him, that all the rest of Washington hates him, and he's not going to get along with everybody else. So in the way, it's kind of easier to see their mistakes. I'll tell you guys a lesson I learned from my father many years ago when we had a business. Right, we had a business, lots of employees, and we also had a number of managers. Right, and a lot of the managers a lot of times they were fighting with each other. Okay, and I would tell my father, like, these people, they can't get along, right? Because I was also in the business at that point. I was like in my 20s. These people can't work together. They're always complaining. They're always fighting. They're always giving me the headache. Where I gotta now deal with these managers. And he's like, that's perfect, right? Because as long as they're fighting with each other, okay, they're not stealing from you. Okay. That's the only way you can be sure they're not stealing from you, because if they're fighting with each other, and that means that one's watching the other, looking for every opportunity to report the other, so they're not gonna do bad things. Okay, if they're all friends, right, that means that they're all working together against you. Okay, so that's how you want your government. You want your government fighting itself at all times. Okay, that's the only government that you can trust. Talk to y'all soon.